Hey everyone, I'm Clip, and we're here on a different world actually, so not the usual tutorial world. That's because I want to go over something a little bit different today. So, when it comes to random generation, there's a lot of stuff online that, either uses structure blocks or random generation, but it doesn't use modular generation, which I find quite interesting, so I thought we'd spend the next few episodes sort of going over this concept. And just to give a bit more of an overview of what this concept actually is, on my main file, so to speak, or I should say the map I'm working on currently, the last feature I want to add is random dungeons. So I had to come up with a system for random generation, and obviously I want to stick with just the usual maybe structure blocks or whatever, and actually call upon random structures. The issue with that is to create randomized structures in that sense. You can't actually. You have to have fixed structures that you then call upon. Whereas if we look at a modular system like this, we can actually generate a random structure. As you can see right now, this structure is different to the one we looked at before, and all I did was turn off one of the modular commands. Similarly, if I break up the segment here and we go again, we can activate it all from the beginning. It's gone to the pink. We'll skip the red, the orange, the yellow. We'll just go blue. You know what? We'll go purple as well. And then if we dissect it so we can actually see. Oh, of course I clicked the wrong one though. That's why you label command blocks, everyone. Okay, so what we're doing, we're skipping the orange, yellow, blue, skip the pink, purple. Oh, actually, you know what? That did the sequence anyway. Anyway, okay, we skip the orange. Good enough. Then we activate this, and ta-da! It's now different again. Similarly, if I cut out the green or I cut out the blue, we'll have different structures. And because of the way the system works and how they overlap using the hollow fill command, it means if, for instance, blue is gone, yellow extends. If yellow is gone, nothing changes, because this is actually on top, or I should say, a lower order than the blue and the pink. But the concept that I'm trying to push here is to essentially modularly construct these chambers or these rooms. And we can actually go a little bit better. So we'll fix this up. We'll keep the black room as well. But we can add different stuff to it. So I assume it's this tower. Right. Yeah, so that adds in the pathways and the doors. But super simple. All I'm doing is tagging a arm stand. So if we clear it again, there's this arm stand friend here. And he's what actually we call upon to build. And if I go ahead and duplicate him, move him over to this direction, I feel like he's positioned wrong, to be honest. I feel like he's meant to be in the corner. You know what? There's an easiest way to check this, because he should be on the chunk boundaries. You know what? He is. He's on the chunk boundary. So the next one should actually go here. And then if we add one to the top quadrant here. Oh, not there. And then of course one over here. We can now extend our little random generation to be a far greater section. That's wrong, isn't it? Yeah. So it should actually go in this corner. Right, so then all I have to do, because I'm specifying which arm stand's better, if I tag all the arm stands, at E, type, arm stand, and then add, and I think I'm using build. All the arm stands now have build, so if we construct our little section, it's going to cut the top because that other section's still there, but we now have four rooms that are all perfectly connected, so there's no bedrock wall. But you can remember, if I generate just one, they don't overlap, so it has the bedrock boundary, so the player can't actually escape. And we have this randomized system of room generation, where all I have to do is specify the different segments to operate randomly, or to be called upon randomly, I should say. So, every time you run a sequence, maybe it skips a few, and then we get all different layouts. And we have a random system here that is actually random and not a set structure that we've created, copied, and then are loading in the world. Because the other issue I have with the general random structure methods that a lot of people are showcasing is it is essentially the same commands. So for instance, any of these you could swap out to call upon a structure. They don't have to be a fixed box or room. The reason I'm going to use fixed box or rooms we'll get into maybe in a later segment, but because you're calling upon the fixed things, it's the same amount of command blocks. And I see this a lot, is people telling me to use like data packs. It's going to end up the same commands, because I still have to call upon the commands, even if I'm using data packs with built-in functions. I can make the functions longer, but then everything I do has to be linear, and I don't want linear systems, because there's nothing we can do that's random or creative with a linear system like this structure. And of course, you can adjust all these different boxes. So for instance, we've got a few different layouts here. Let's open. Completely different again. Isn't that just awesome? And it'll be fun to just expand upon this concept, and that's essentially what we're going to go over, is how I plan to do that. So, generally speaking, I think I'm going to split this into like 3 maybe? So this is just, I want to showcase the system. So we'll go over the system in this one. Next one, we'll talk about how we actually, start fitting out the rooms and maybe the generation. And the third one, we'll figure out as we go. But yeah, so what exactly is happening? Well, super simple. First, I'm creating a bedrock box. So, we can actually just get rid of all these. Right, and we'll go through it segment by segment. So first off, you know what? I'll do one more thing. I'll get rid of these arm stands, since we only need to look at the one section for now. Right, so only one box can be generated, because again, I'm executing at each arm stand. And we'll sort of get through how you set up to load each arm stand. Because I plan to make this really massive. I want to aim for, I think it's 13 by 13. And each of these is already 3 chunks, so it's going to be massive. Just the random generation I want to actually put into the game. But anyway, first step, we create this sort of boundary box, which is just bedrock. So we're filling, and the important part of this command is the size. So this is the maximum size you can actually use. If I were to adjust it slightly, increase the height by 1, I don't know if it will return the output. No. But if, say, I break a block, it's not going to fill because it's now one size too great. It's whatever the limit is, 43,000 something, 44,000. Call it 44,000. But at this exact size, it's perfect. It's the perfect size to build in. You can obviously decrease it in each direction if you want more height. I'm trying to stick with chunks, because then it gets a lot simpler to do things like load the chunks to actually build in far off areas. And yeah, all around it's just easier to confine it to a set space of what the game actually loads. But you can adjust this, you can shrink these sides in. So instead of this being 3 chunks, you can make it, say, 2 chunks, increase the height, make it go down if you want. But generally speaking, this is the maximum size you can work with. After that, it's hollow. Well, actually, sorry, it's full. So it's just a giant bedrock box. After that, we start generating the insides. So the inside is now red, and this is our actual sort of dungeon environment that we're going to fill with rooms. And of course, the main reason for that is so we don't just have bedrock wool, so it's it's a bit more decorative. I can pick whatever material block I want. It doesn't have to be red wool. Then green is our first room. So it adds in a box that's hollow to our little area segment. It doesn't go all the way to the top. And then, of course, as we continue the sequence, it's just adding in more of those boxes. Every time we click one of these, it's filling in. The black is that giant room in the center, so we don't really have to go through. It's going to be set up for a boss room, but now we have these boxes that have overlapped, bisected, and cut one another, and that's sort of how we create this random gen. And, to tweak it, all you have to do is change the numbers. It's super simple. If I could get out, there we go. I'm going to run to the same difficulty here. Let's make it 3i. But yeah, so all you have to do is change the X, Y, Z, whatever you want, within the range of our giant bedrock structure to make it, completely different, make it one of these layouts. So this segment, so green, whatever these coordinates are different to these coordinates, so the room's going to be different. So if we go inside, although we have the green here, it's now a lot longer. Yeah, so the layout's different. And the other reason to sort of have a roof and enclose it is you can do things to create confusion. So by removing the bounding boxes, the obsidian, the player can't necessarily know when they're passing from one section to the next, so we can start to confuse them with the layout. Other than that, the extra segments, these two, this first one's kind of important. So this will create all the corridors and allow the rooms to essentially connect to one another. And the way that happens is, well, I sort of need to break it up, don't I, in order to show it off. These are all barriers. Actually, no, there we go. Yeah, so they're already separate, which is great. So we click this command, and this is my 4 corridors. You can have 6, you can have 8, you can have 2, you can have 1, whatever you want. And all they do is they run as a cross section from one side to the other. There should be 2. We should be able to see one to the left or right soon enough. There we go. There's another one. Okay, and it goes all the way through. Oh, because it's black, I can't actually tell. But yeah, so they intersect, and they're actually built with barrier blocks. Why has it triggered the air command? Curiously. This is not powering anything yet. It seems to have triggered it. That is very, very intriguing. Right? Because it should be showcasing it better. Anyway, it works, it's fine. Is there barrier blocks? Have I just not ran into it? No, there's no barrier blocks. There we go, figured it out. It's the top one. So we'll just turn this off for a second. So I need redstone. Click it again. And there should be the barriers now. Yeah. So barrier blocks. The reason I'm using barrier blocks and not air blocks is we can create a 2-step system that stops the system filling in those areas, so the barrier block areas, until we build the next segment. And this way they connect, and there's the hole in the wall. So if I run it again, we'll extend it out so we can actually go back into the cross section so we can have a look. So the way it's working is it's putting barrier blocks into these corridor segments. They run all the way through. And then when we build another segment from our armor stand, it's going to overlap with the bedrock. So our armor stand actually goes on this slot right here, which means that its bedrock tries to replace the wall, but we have it set to only replace air. So it doesn't actually replace the wall segments, meaning the only place it can fill in are the corridors, hence why we need to keep them as barrier blocks, because then we can blacklist air and then have it not replace barrier blocks, meaning that after the second segment is built, there is no bedrock in these 2 sections because they overlap, and the corridor will run all the way through, giving us, these joining segments that sort of seem seamless. You can obviously tell if you start to recognize the room patterns, but then you can vary it with different layouts, slight tweaks. There's lots you can actually do. Anyway, we'll go over the commands one more time, and we'll label it for this part. This one's sort of rambly because I wasn't too sure how exactly I want to present this. The next one will be a little bit more organized, I hope. Okay, so first off, we're just making our bounding box with bedrock, so to our maximum possible size, which is 3 chunks. After that, we're filling it in with red wool. This obviously can be any block you want. This is our dungeon exterior. So whatever blocks you want, it's just one size in. Then from green, 1 room, 2 room, 3 room, so on. And all you have to do is make sure that the layout fits inside your other layouts. Have it set to hollow so they're actually boxes. And this way, when the boxes intersect, they can overlap and cut out areas, creating, again, more unique randomness depending on the order in which you actually organize the room. So for instance, if I ran these all in a different order, we'd get something different. In fact, why don't I just do that? Easiest way to showcase something is to showcase it. So for instance, we'll go the bounding box, the exterior, but then for the rooms, we'll go in the opposite order. And I'll leave the black off. So we'll go purple, pink, blue, yellow, orange, other purple, blue, other purple, other blue, green. And now if we open it up so we can actually see, whether or not you can tell it is slightly different. So the orange no longer is cutting out the purple cuts into the orange, so now we have this smaller corridor. The yellow is extended into the pink and blue, so the blue is no longer as big, the pink is no longer as big, the pink cuts into the purple, so the purple is no longer as big, the green cuts into the blue, and yada yada. So instead of having a wall here, we now have a wall there. But there's just slight tweaks, and obviously the more you make them oversect, the more random, oh, I said that right, didn't I? The more randomness, it sounds weird in my head. The more randomization you can actually create. So I just thought it was a neat concept to show off because it is super simple again, and I love super simple commands that you can sort of play around with and tweak and create, creative functions from that. But it's just not talked about. And I don't understand, because modular generation is something that's used in a lot of games. And it's an easier to tweak version of random generation, because a lot can go wrong with random generation. And even in saying that, you can't do true random generation unless you make a mod. You can't functionally create random generation that isn't pre-built, because you have to have a set structure. This, at the very least, although we have set structures, we can redo the way they laid out and use that to create randomness. And just to spout how we actually generate, unique rooms off of all of these command blocks. Because of how they're segmented, you can run chain command blocks, and you have different room or environment tweaks, again, that are on a randomized timer maybe, so that they don't all get triggered and just fill in the space. So in my case, I'm going to have 16 because my randomizer is 16 numbers. So there's 16 different room elements that could be called upon. And not all of them will be, and every time a different amount of them will be called upon. So that way we can actually create, unique rooms to explore. But anyway, we'll leave that there for this first one. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found it interesting. Modular generation. Give it a go. Super simple to use.